On this episode of Locked On Angels, Yusei Kikuchi is a Angel. So what does that mean for 2025? Are the Halos done signing pitchers? And is there another pitcher out there that could complement this signing? And the biggest question is this a positive move? Do Angel fans like this? Do the Angels like this? Let's get into all of it. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Gametime. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
You say I only hear what I want to. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, aka the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Lisa Loeb.
Hey, she and I have the same glasses. That's what's up. Hey, we're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. Of course, we'll drop down to about 3 episodes a week mid-December, and then we'll ramp back up right before spring training. So we have a little bit of a holiday winter break, if you will, but we'll still be here 3 times a week and with some in-between content. Of course, on today's show, the Angels did sign Yusei Kikuchi for the rotation. So what's our response? What's the response from around the league? What do other baseball insiders have to say? Is this going to be a positive or a negative for the Angels? Let's first talk about the details of this contract and what it all means, Mike.
Yeah, 3-year deal worth $63 million, around $21 million a year. It's the most expensive contract, John, that Perry Manassian has handed out, topping that Raisel Iglesias deal that we all wanted, 4 years, $58 million, and then he traded him away. Now, Baseball Trade Values tweeted this, and then I want to get your thoughts. Our model projects that Yusei Kikuchi, he was supposed to be worth about $54.3 million in field value over the next 3 seasons. So it's a fair amount less than the 3 years, $63 million contract. Now, to their credit, they also talked about how they estimated that Chris Sale, when he was traded last year, it was an overpay by the Braves. And now it's not an overpay. He did really well. So that's their numbers compared to what the Angels reportedly have given Kikuchi. John, you said this when you gave the update on social media, but I want to ask you to clarify, bring some more detail to it, and I'd love to share my thoughts as well. Is this the example that we've been talking about, that for the Angels, you're going to have to, if you're going to get players, you're going to have to go an extra year or give a little bit of extra money? Is this an example of that with Yusei Kikuchi?
Totally. And I think at 34 years old, which is what he will be when he comes into next season, and you give him 3 years, you get him through, 34, 35, 36. That's a pretty long contract, but it also would be a pitcher's last contract, so to speak. I'm sure Kikuchi can pitch beyond age 36, but I think the incentive for the Angels, or to add incentive for Kikuchi to come to the Angels, was to give him a fair deal that's going to take care of him the rest of his life, right? And now he's sitting pretty on all the money he's already made, but this is just to say, when you're Yusei Kikuchi and you're that age, you want to take a deal like this so that you know that you have at least some guaranteed money coming your way, no matter how your health turns out, no matter how your career turns out, or no matter how your performance turns out. Mike, I did call this an overpay, and the reason why was because based on the market value of a pitcher of Kikuchi's historic caliber, he's probably worth about 15 to 18 million.
Yeah.
However, you have to consider this. The qualifying offer was 21 million, and Kikuchi doesn't have a qualifying offer attached to him.
Right.
But there's a number of starters out there who have declined that qualifying offer, who could have got 21 million for 1 more year with whatever team they were with. Think Sean Manaea with the Mets, right? They offered him the qualifying offer. He turned it down. Severino turned it down as well. That's kind of where the bidding starts if you're a starting pitcher. Now, maybe you get away with, I don't know, 4 years for Kikuchi, and maybe that 16, 18, something under 20 million, right? Maybe that's the trade-off there. So in a sense, yes, so far in his career, he is probably not a $21 million player. However, the Athletic and MLB trade rumors all had him around 3 years, 60 million.
Yeah.
And that's totally great. But you have to understand, the projections that people get are not what you should base your overpay, underpay on. Really what it comes down to is the performance. So I like that tweet from Baseball Trade Values. And you have to consider, again, where the market starts. And there are a whole bunch of starting pitchers who didn't take $21 million to stay with their teams. And so Kikuchi kind of sets that tone for pitching free agents coming out of this. So yes, I based on his track record and based on his career, based on his age, I think it's an overpay, but I'm okay with it. And it all has to do with what he did, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Turning in this best year of his career, especially those last 10 starts with the Astros.
Yeah. So last year, 2024, he had 172 and 2/3 innings pitched, 9 and 10, a 3.5 FanGraphs WAR, a 4.05 ERA, a 3.46 FIP. So that's important. That's what he can control. 206 strikeouts and only 44 walks. But John, it was his time with the Astros that turned things around, and I think that gave him a better deal. 10 starts
100%.
with the Astros, right? 10 starts with the Astros. Kikuchi had a 2.7 ERA, 76 strikeouts, and only 14 walks across 60 innings. And the reason why he was so good, and you mentioned this before we recorded this show on socials, the Astros got him to lean on his best pitch, his slider, and he threw it 37.1% of the time since he was acquired by the Astros before he went to Houston, John. He only threw it around 16.9% of the time in the first 4 months, and he struck out 146 batters on his four-seam and slider combined in 2024. That was the most of, or sixth most of any pitcher in the league, Johnny.
Yeah, if you're watching on the video side, I'll describe it for the audio side. I got the chart here of his pitch percentage by month, how much he was using each of his pitches. And that yellow line at the end, you see that slider usage go all the way up. And let's see, July is when he got traded. And oh, look, that's when the line starts really ticking upward. And you also see the curveball usage going down, Mike. So rather than a fastball curveball combo, it was a slider fastball combo. And the Astros got him to throw that slider up in the zone, a la Carlos Estevez, what he was able to do when he came over in that first year. And so you see that the Astros saw something with him in Toronto and went, let's go get him. And we can make him use that slider because it's his best pitch. He should be using it more. And that's the results here. So that's really what we have to bank on, is the fact that can Enright and the team keep him doing that, encourage him to do that?
Yeah.
Do you think it's finally sank into for Kikuchi that the slider is the way to go?
I think so. The big question is going to be, how will teams adjust? Now, he just had 10 starts with the Astros, and he played in the playoffs as well. And so he is somebody that obviously went along with what the coaches said and was able to do that. And he saw success with that. Now, what will teams do in response to that? What will they do if this is Kikuchi for the entire season? The good news is, John, is that he's not just a one-pitch guy. He was throwing a couple of pitches. The other pitch he was throwing was his fastball. And, John, he threw it at a career-high 95.5 miles an hour last year. So he was throwing with a lot of gas and then keeping the batters off balance when he was throwing that slider, and being somebody that was focused on, hey, these two pitches are working really well for me. And then if I need to throw in the curve, or if I need to throw in another pitch, the changeup, I can do that. But those two pitches are his most prominent pitches. And I can see somebody like Barry Enright coaching him in that way, because this is what Enright communicated to our pitchers last year. We saw that happen with Patrick Sandoval. suddenly he wasn't throwing his fastball because it's garbage, right? He was throwing his other pitches, and he saw some success. The problem is that he couldn't throw a first pitch strike. The problem is that he got too much in his head. Kikuchi seems like a very mature, high IQ baseball player that was able to go, yeah, wow, that works. Let me throw it. And you saw the jump and what it did for him with the Astros last season.
Yeah, and if they're going to have success with him, he's got to continue to do that. You're right, though. The book on Kikuchi, by the time he went to the Astros, was, hey, watch out for the curveball, watch out for the fastball. Then for 10 games, it changed to the slider, which is great news. But there will be new books written on Kikuchi. And so you're going to have to adjust to that and keep that in mind if you're Barry Enright and company.
And here's something I looked up, and I didn't give you the stats for it, but I looked it up just before the show. I wanted to see Kikuchi's stats in his career against the Angels. Here's some news. It's not good.
Yeah.
But do you know his last 2 starts? He went and threw a quality start, and it was because he was with the Astros. And then when he threw a start with the Blue Jays against the Angels earlier in the season, they knocked him out in 4 innings or so because they scored 7 to 9 runs on the guy. And so you already saw the impact that just changing his approach could have. And the Angels were probably expecting this is what he's going to do, right? And then he comes in throwing a completely different pitch. And then just a few days later, throwing that same pitch more consistently, and it had them off balance. And so Barry Enright has proven to be somebody that will help these pitchers become better and focus on where they thrive. Remember when he first started this last season, he's like, everybody was throwing their best pitch right off the bat. And what I wanted them to do is to mix in a pitch so that their best pitch would be devastating. And that's what Kikuchi did with his fastball and with his slider.
And now he doesn't have to face Mickey Moniak, who got a home run off of him, a left-handed home run off of him. So that's a bonus too. But Mike, you're right. You have to consider that as Kikuchi becomes an Angel. Here's what to expect, friends. Fly ball outs, strikeouts, and the occasional home run, right? He's going to give up his home runs, but he's going to be an effective guy, especially adding to a starting rotation that was bottom of the barrel in terms of strikeout percentage. Kikuchi is going to add a lot to that. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up on Locked On Angels, what does this mean for the Halos rotation? What are some of the responses around baseball? And most importantly, while you're here, what are our responses? What do we think? Let's get into all of that coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by Ibotta. Ibotta users, now you can get a gift from Ibotta. They're giving users 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at some of your favorite retailers and some of your favorite stores and upload your receipt. Ibotta is going to give you the cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, everything that you need for the holidays. Other apps just give you points. It doesn't really add to much, but with Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can put into your bank, you can put in your PayPal, or you can turn into a gift card, and you can earn all sorts of cash back on hundreds of different online brands and retailers too with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. Download their app and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Again, download the free Ibotta app. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play Store and the App Store, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. They're obsessed with finding you ways to help you save money on tickets, sports, comedy, concerts, theater, so much more. You can save up to 60% off your tickets. Mike, my wife and I went to see Fiddler on the Roof. Guess who was the main star, the lead role?
Jason Costanza.
That's right, Jason Alexander. It was fantastic. So if you want to get to a show like that, you don't even have to go to a sports game. You can go to a show, a musical, whatever you want with Gametime. They have zone deals, which let you choose the section, and Gametime chooses the seats. They have the lowest price guarantee, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference. Every purchase is covered with their Gametime ticket coverage, the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's Gametime.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and this is Locked On Angels. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Now, let's talk about that current Angels rotation. Signing Yusei Kikuchi adjusts some things, and so there have been a lot of suggestions as to what the rotation might look like, Johnny. Some say Kikuchi is the ace immediately, which I think I would agree with at this point. Jose Soriano is probably your number 2. Tyler Anderson, probably your number 3. And then there were some suggestions of Reed Detmers and Kyle Hendricks. Of course, other names are like Caden Dana, Jack Kohanowitz, Chase Silseth, Altaguiri, Sam Bachman. We didn't even mention George Clausen and some other names. Johnny, I think that I would take Reed Detmers out of that starting rotation and have Kohanowitz because I think he's earned the right to at least start the season in that starting rotation. And because you signed Kyle Hendricks and he's a first strike thrower at almost 70%, I think you have somebody like Kyle Hendricks at number 5. But my question to you is, what do you think this starting rotation looks like to start the season?
Well, you're right about Kohanowitz. It's somebody that I would put into this rotation too, instead of Reed Detmers, not because I'm a huge fan, but because it also removes a lefty from the rotation.
Yeah.
Because you have Kikuchi, Anderson, and Detmers in that starting 5 so far. And, a lot of the projections said, here's the Angels' options. Obviously, you are going to see Kikuchi, Soriano, Anderson, and Hendricks in there. But that 4th spot and the 5th guy are kind of up in the air. And I would not be surprised to see Detmer start in this rotation, Mike. I'm with you, though. I would rather have Kohanowitz in there. But here's the thing, is you have Reed Detmers, who also has a killer slider. And so you can look at it in one of 2 ways. Number 1, you can get him around Kikuchi to figure out and watch and learn from him on when and how and where to throw that slider, right? On the other hand, maybe you don't want 2 lefty slider reliant guys in the rotation. So that is also something to consider. And again, I go back to, I think Kohanowitz is fantastic. And I think that he definitely earned a spot in that rotation in the second half of 2024.
Now, there's been a lot of a chatter out there from everydayers and Angel fans that this signing possibly means that the Angels are going to make a trade of Tyler Anderson. But do you think that Tyler Anderson is staying and that maybe perhaps Reed Detmers is the guy that they trade and bring in somebody else, whether it be a pitcher or whether it be another infielder? What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't like to see Reed Detmers get traded if it's going to be a win now kind of move, right? In the sense that I understand that you add a Kikuchi to be competitive over the next 3 years, and maybe things turn around this year, and then 2026 and 27, you're like, hey, let's really go for it now. We feel like we have everything kind of locked in place. To me, this is still a figure it out year for the Angels. If you can be the West Coast Royals and turn your reputation around in one season because you get the best out of your young guys, you get a healthy Mike Trout, you get a much better, on paper, this rotation is already much better than what we were coming in with last season. So all of that to say, if you can turn things around in this next year, then you might be in a position to trade Reed Detmers for a guy who helps you win now. But I think at this point, I don't know if I want to see them do that. Now, if it's for more long-term prospects, then yes.
Yeah.
If Tyler Anderson is kind of the same thing where, hey, it's more long-term prospects, maybe you eat some of that $13 million that he's owed this season, then I would totally be down because, yes, the Angels have the supplemental pieces like Kohanowitz and Silseth and even Altaguiri to come in and fill out those spots in the rotation. Mike, the big question is, can you trade Anderson and maybe even Taylor Ward and save about $22 million to make another big move? Because right now, the payroll for the Angels is $190 million, but when you factor in the average annual value of all the contracts that they owe, this is the luxury tax payroll. So the real numbers, $190 million, but for the purposes of hitting that luxury tax, which starts at $241 million, the Angels sit at $207,188 and $334. So about $207 million. They've got about $32 million in space before they hit that first luxury tax, and I don't think they're going all the way up to it
Right.
as they've done in the past. And so you have to take that into consideration. If they trade Anderson and Ward, that does open up a lot more space, and maybe that's what you do in order to get a free agent starter like a Max Fried or somebody that you really, really want. You open up that $22 million and put that towards whatever free agent is out there.
What are your thoughts, Johnny, on the rotation specifically? Like, do you think the Angels are done? Should they add more? I guess would be the better question. Now, I did see a tweet from Robert Murray. He did say that my conversations with people in Anaheim today suggest that they're not sleeping. Like, they're not going to sleep. This isn't the final move, that they're still trying to get that roster better. I expect them to continue to make moves. Now, that's very ambiguous, right? That's what you want to hear as a fan. I wonder on your end, your thoughts. Do you think that the Angels are done adding to the rotation specifically?
I think they could be done in this sense now that you have Kikuchi, because Mike, he's a tier 2 starter. He's a Flaherty. He's a Buehler, because you don't know what Buehler's health is going to be like, right? And so he's on he's on that level of those guys, because go look at Jack Flaherty's last couple of years. Looks an awful lot like Kikuchi in some places.
Right.
And so this is the tier 2. They got a tier 2 guy. Again, I think that there's room in the budget for them to go out and get a big free agent starter, but that would take them right up against the luxury tax. So here's what I think. I think that you will either see the two guys that we've been talking about, Anderson, Ward, or a combination of both, get moved and open up that $22 million and then bring a free agent in. The other way to look at it is, if they go out and get a big free agent starter, then you can probably bet that there is going to be some payroll shed, like a Tyler Anderson or Taylor Ward. I keep picking on them, but they're just owed the most, and they're the most tradable, I think, at this point. All of that to say, yes, the rotation probably could roll into 2025 looking like this, and it would be an improvement over last year. It's not an elite staff by any means, but it's certainly pretty good looking. The one thing I think they're missing, though, is that infielder. And specifically, they got to get somebody to play third base, because you can put Rengifo over there. That's fine. But then the thing I want to see, Mike, is, I know he'll be there while Neto is out, but in a perfect ideal world, the next move the Angels makes Kevin Newman optional, right? Yes. He's on
extra
the bench.
Outfielder. Yes.
He's your extra infielder. He can play the outfield. He is the guy that you don't want in there every single day. He can, and he will, to start the season, because Neto will be out. However, if you have the luxury of keeping him on the bench because you signed the infielder that you need, that's the ideal situation for the Angels, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think that what we've seen from Perry Minasian so far this offseason is some creativity in adding to this roster. And then he went and got Kikuchi. And I think his next move is going to be a big move. I don't anticipate big move like Max Fried. I don't anticipate big move like even Blake Snell. I think it's going to be a second tier type of move. Maybe it is a Jack Flaherty, although he's asking for a good amount of money. And we'll talk about what this move actually does to those other pitchers in the last segment. But John, I think it might be more of the trade, moving some pieces around, letting there be some roster flexibility so that they aren't pushing the luxury tax. A Seth Lugo type of move. That's what this Kikuchi move feels like. And so I can see that being what they do moving forward in this offseason.
I heard somebody talking about the moves the Angels made so far with, Hendricks, Darno, Kevin Newman, and they refer to it as house cleaning. And I love that term, because so far the Angels have done house cleaning moves, and the Kikuchi move is that's significant.
That's a new couch.
That's a needle mover right there. So it's nice to see that they're past the house cleaning. There will probably be more house cleaning.
Yeah.
But we are looking forward to some more significant moves from Perry Minasian.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers like you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook gives you everything that you need to place live bets right in the middle of their app. It's all with the play-by-play. It's all with all the stats. You're going to be the smartest bettor in the world when you use FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel.com is where to get started. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
You think anybody bet on the Commanders making that extra point to tie up the game? And then...
Oh, my gosh.
What an ending to that game. Insane. But yeah, FanDuel is where it's at, everybody. So make sure you check it out at FanDuel.com. Mike, there were lots of reactions around baseball to this move, and we thought we'd share our reactions as well. But why don't you tell us some of the things around baseball that people have said about the Angels signing Yusei Kikuchi?
Yeah, Steve Phillips from MLB Network said, I think they're actually trying to build something to get into the playoffs. Jared Timms also said from Talking Halos, he tweeted, I could be wrong, but I think the Angels are done spending on major league starting pitching right now. I assume that they're going to start looking at the free agent or trade market for another infielder who can play shortstop. We just talked about that. Maybe an outfielder who can play center field, maybe even some bullpen pieces for minor league depth. And then our buddy Brett McGuire said, great signing for the Angels. In my humble opinion, Kikuchi made huge strides last year, and the 3 for $63 is a solid value. That's a great take. I like that. In 2024, he said Kikuchi set career best marks in Fangraphs WAR strikeouts, innings, strikeout rate, walk rate, his expected ERA, his FIP, and his expected FIP. And then John's favorite, John Heyman, he's not your favorite. He said the Angels are back in the ball game. That's about $100 million in Soler, d'Arnaud, Hendricks, Newman too, for early Major League Baseball spending. He also said that Kikuchi's $21 million salary should boost the fortunes of other pitchers like Sean Manaea, Severino, Flaherty, Evaldi. I forgot Evaldi's out there. Actually, really like him. Pivetta, Buehler, even Snell, Burns, and Fried will probably get well above that. So that's an interesting take. And then Johnny, Victor Rojas, Angels Hall of Famer, right?
Hey.
Play-by-play guy. Love that guy. He said that seems to be a steep price for a 3 to 4 guy in the starting rotation and artificially inflates the price tag on other arms in the market. But my opinion doesn't matter that much.
Yes, it does, Victor. Come on. We love you. Everybody loves Victor Rojas. But here's the thing. Like I mentioned before, the qualifying offer is $21 million. And like I mentioned in that first segment, everybody who declined it, Manaea, right? Evaldi, they all declined it. And they're all going to be expecting something more than $21 million. So yes, it is steep for a career 3-4 guy. But everything that I've been seeing, especially from guys on MLB Network, like Harold Reynolds and whatnot, they all think, and even Eric Kratz and Todd Frazier on Foul Territory discussed it too. They think he can be the floor would be a 2 and a number 1 in this rotation and any rotation.
Yeah.
But it all hinges on how he comes into next season. And again, this in this world where the qualifying offer starts at $21 million. All the pitchers turned it down. That's the floor of the salary, Mike. And so that's just kind of where the market is right now. And like I said, yeah, it's a bit of a reach for a guy like Kikuchi who, probably could have traded one more year for a cheaper annual value. But at the end of the day, it's not my money. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see them spend money on starting pitching. Now, does that preclude them from getting more starting pitching? I'm kind of with Jared here. Jared Timms from Talking Halos. I think that we are going to see the Angels on the trade market making some moves, making some deals. And a big part of that, I think, will be the winter meetings because, they had the GM meetings, but the winter meetings, you're going to see more trades. You're going to see some movement. You're going to see big free agent signings. And I think the Angels will be really involved in the trade market. Still pushing really hard for that Taylor Ward for Alec Boehm trade, man. I would love to see that happen. I think it solves a ton of problems, and I think it resolves a lot of issues for the Halos. Now, when you woke up this morning and saw the news, Mike, your initial reaction, what did you have to think?
I liked it. It wasn't a spectacular move, but it wasn't a bad move. I really liked it. And I know that the narrative out there is Angels need pitching. No, not that guy, right? And that happens with every team. Our boss, Jeff Carr, he's locked on Cincinnati Reds. I texted with him and John this morning and even said that. And he goes, oh, I know how that feels because they had to deal with that with the Jonathan India trade.
Right.
And so I think that what we have to do is we have to see this through the lens of who our team actually is, who they've told us that they are, instead of seeing this through what our dreams are and who we'd like to see.
Yeah.
Angels don't sign pitchers for long term. So I just don't think that they're going to get some of the big names that are out there. I do think my reaction is I think they need one more starting pitcher, and I can see them going after a Walker Buehler, John, just because I don't think Walker Buehler gets a long-term deal. I think Walker Buehler gets a prove-it deal, maybe a 2-year deal, and they're not wasting money. That's the thing, because they're not giving it over a period of 10 years. They're giving it over a period of 3 years, and it's right in the window of when these young players are ready to really perform. They didn't trade any of their young players so far. They haven't gotten rid of that core. They still have a ton of depth in the minor leagues with their starting rotation. I do think that maybe the bullpen might need some love, but I think that the love actually will come from some of the guys that were playing with the Trash Pandas down in the minor leagues last season. And so I liked this move. One side note, by the way, Yusei Kikuchi didn't babysit Roki Sasaki. People are saying, oh, if he babysat him when he was a kid, maybe he'll get him. Actually, he babysat Rintaro Sasaki, who is another phenom that actually I think is playing, somebody said, is playing in Stanford right now. And so he's 19, still has some time to grow. And so it's not Roki, and we don't have an inside track there. I got excited when I saw that, and then I did a deep dive. It's actually Rintaro Sasaki, who is a left-handed power bat, great player. Think would be a great fit for the Angels, but he's not going to be somebody on this team or even near baseball for a couple of years.
Right. Well, okay. So seeing this move, I thought it was a good move. The price tag was like a little bit shocking.
Yeah.
But I, upon further review, I realized
you have made some really good points just with the qualifying offer. That was actually, I think, something that settled my heart was, qualifying offer is $21 million.
Yeah.
And so he would have got that with Houston. It would have been a 1-year deal. Yeah. But I think you made a really good point with that number.
Yeah. And they weren't even able to offer him the qualifying offer, but you see all these other pitchers taking it or not taking it. And then again, you see like Evaldi turned down his player option, which was $22 million. Mm-hmm. So he's looking for something like 23 to 25. So I think Kikuchi falls right in where the market would have him in terms of who's above him and who's below him in terms of pitching. Again, Mike, I think that this is a step in the right direction. I looked it up, and it's actually CJ Wilson got $65 million over the course of his career. Of course, he didn't pitch in 2016, but I was like, man, this is the most money for a starting pitcher they've given since that CJ Wilson deal. I know they signed Tyler Anderson, but this is pretty significant money. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think it's a way the Angels needed to go. I'm looking forward to what this does to the rotation. It certainly doesn't mean you have to rush up anybody either. Like, we're not going to be rushing Caden Dana at this point either, because you have enough guys in the depth chart to be in your starting rotation. And whether we end up with Kohanowitz or Detmer's in the rotation, you're going to see one of them at some point during this season, whether it's the other one who's in the minor leagues for a while and then gets called up. It's going to happen. Like we said, you need 10 to 12 pitchers to survive the season. And I think that's what's going to happen here. All in all, I am happy with it. I think that the improvements he made in Houston are ones that will stick. They will last. And I think that's something that we all need to be looking forward to come 2025 with Kikuchi. And maybe he can teach Detmer something, a thing or two about using that slider, which is his best pitch. He's got to use it more. Get away from that fastball. Use that slider. I think there's a lot to look forward to here.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. You can find that on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube, get in the comments section, and we'll be happy to have you part of the conversation. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, we were going to talk about Sal Fasano and how he was going to work with Barry Enright and the pitchers to help solve some of the issues from last year. And then the Angels signed Yusei Kikuchi. So if the Angels don't sign anybody, which if they do, that'll be fun. If they don't, we're going to talk about Sal Fasano and the pitching staff and how they plan to make some corrections and help this pitching staff be better, especially throwing first pitch strikes. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
You say, I only hear what I want to.
Mine was better.
Yes, it was.